Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you happen to be in Australia or around the world. My name's Mark. I own and run the Purple Penny along with my wife Catherine. We do these videos every Monday at about 12 o'clock Adelaide time. Sometimes Catherine joins in. She won't be joining in today. So we're a small family-owned coin and banknote shop in the northern suburbs of Adelaide. And we've been here for a bit over 4 years. We've been doing these videos for the last few years, been trying to do one a week, and it's a great way of us interacting with our customers around Australia and people who are interested in coin collecting. We always try to help new collectors out, and hopefully we can learn something from you out there as well. And hello to everyone who's watching on YouTube later. All these videos do get posted up to YouTube a day or two after they're live on Facebook. Right, so last week was of course a new Mint release, and you would probably know that the Mint wasn't selling through their website for the second or third month in a row. So that meant that you had to be in Canberra at the Mint shop, you had to ring them up, or you had to get your coins from authorised Mint distributors like us. The release here in the shop at least was very smooth. No problems at all. We had a little bit of stock up on our website. Our website stood up just fine, which was fantastic. There was a lot of orders to mail out. Poor old Catherine is still soldiering on through those. But otherwise, everything was fine. We didn't get enough, of course. We're still waiting on the humpback whale coins. We haven't taken delivery of those yet. But otherwise, the release was fine. The week in the shop was busy. I was busy every day with the new releases and things like that. That always makes it busy on Thursday, Friday and Saturday, because most of our regulars don't come in on release day because they know it's going to be busy. So that just meant that Friday and Saturday was busy as well, which for us is fantastic because it makes things go faster here. We'll just have a look at some comments before we get into the coin and banknote news for the week. Hello Paul, Ash, Peter, John, Patrick, Justin, Mark, Jason. Peter's taking a break from his writing. Peter is the author and editor of Independent Coin News, which is a free online coin newsletter which is released every couple of months. If you want to sign up for that and be notified when it's available, jump onto Facebook and do a search for Independent Coin News and like and follow that page, and you will get notified when the next edition is available. Hello Michelle, hello Mary. Sorry, Facebook's just jumped there. Hello Peter, Nelson, Ray, Daryl, Gary, Alex, Chris, and Brett, and Glenn, and Mike. Peter says just wait for the next $2 release. Yes, there was already enough blood in the water this week with a non-existent $2 folder release. We had many phone calls this week from people wanting to put their names down for things that don't exist yet. We only ever take people's names for actually announced and line listed Mint products. We don't take names for things that haven't been officially released yet. Brandon says he feels like I'm 5 again watching Romper Room. Why is that, Brandon? I didn't dress for the occasion today. I dressed for the weather. So I've got my flanny shirt on today. Do apologise for my dress. Right, let's jump into the news. So we have done the RAM release wrap up. Now, if you watched last week, you would remember that there was a coin theft over in Ceduna, which is in the far west of South Australia. But in the paper on the weekend, there was a story there about a 61-year-old woman from the mid-north of South Australia. Those of you who aren't from South Australia, the mid-north is sort of the region from about 40 kilometres north to about 200 kilometres north of Adelaide. So we have a 61-year-old woman who has been charged with 18 counts of theft, 11 counts of false declaration to a second-hand dealer, and 9 counts of unlawful possession. And the police have recovered a number of stolen items from her home and also from various cash converters up that way, and amongst them are badges, military medals, military relative medals, coins, a vintage typewriter, jewellery and things like that. So I guess there's two things to get out of this. One is that, you know, second-hand dealers do their best, I think, most of the time to record identity and things like that as best as they can. When they don't, they get hit pretty hard here in South Australia. And, you know, if you do have some of this stuff taken from you, especially if it's war medals and badges and things like that, two things: examine those items closely and record any service numbers and names and registration numbers on them. And if they do get pinched, do report them to police. Sure, you might not get them back immediately, but I'm very confident that the police do their level best to get these things back to their rightful owners. And if you don't report it, that's never going to happen. So to that 61-year-old woman, too bad, so sad. And if she was stealing the stuff directly, then good riddance to her. And if people were supplying stuff to her, I hope that they catch those people as well. Now we'll just jump to the next item here. Now this is normally I wouldn't talk about this, but it did come up in my news feed on a Australian touring cars fan website about a product that's being released by Downies. Downies being a coin dealer who are based in Melbourne. This is a collector set of colourised pennies, and one side of each of the pennies in that set has had a graphic applied to it, and it is in relation to Alan Moffat, who was is a Canadian gentleman who was a touring car driver here in Australia. Touring cars being our sort of indigenous race car series, and there's 9 coins in that set. The release price is $149. Now we get this sort of thing coming in here quite a bit when people are selling their collections. So Downies has done Ford and Holdens and all sorts of different things, and people are pretty quick to poo-poo it because, you know, it's, people call it junk or just collectible rubbish or whatever. But we always encourage people to collect what they love, and if you're a touring car enthusiast, then, and this tickles your fancy, then there really shouldn't be anything to stop you from going out there and buying it and putting it in your collection and looking at it and enjoying it. As I said, I don't normally promote this sort of thing, but we do always encourage people to buy what they love. Peter has said there, are they allowed to do that? Of course, it is a federal offence to deface Australian currency. I believe these coins just have some sort of sticker put on them, and they can probably be removed fairly easily, so you could argue that they haven't actually defaced the currency, but I don't really want to get into the legal discussions behind that. Now, in the Czech Republic in about 2002, there was a large archaeological site found called I'm going to try and say this once and then I'm not going to say it again, Nemčice, which is a Iron Age town in the Czech Republic. And in the last 20 years or so, more than 2,000 Celtic gold and silver coins have been found there. The workshop itself, or the town itself, operated from in the 2nd and 3rd centuries BC. A lot of coins have been found there, including that type that you can see on the right there. It's a obol, which is a small silver coin, and it depicts a horse on one side and the other side has no design on it. Now, why would a town in the Czech Republic have an Iron Age workshop in it? Well, it was on what was called the Baltic, the Amber Road, which is basically a trade route that went from the Baltic down to the Mediterranean, and it was used for the transport of amber, which is still found to this day on the beaches in the Baltic. And all of the towns along that Amber Road were big trade centres, and clearly this town here, whose name I'm not going to try to say again. And yes, Alex, it does look like my name. My name's easier to say than that one, though. This town was obviously an economic powerhouse because of that. What makes it interesting is it's just popped up in the news in the last 6 months because they located a glass manufacturing workshop in this town full of glass fragments, such as you can see there. And apparently it is the oldest glass workshop that has been found north of the Alps in Europe, so quite a significant find there. Hello Alan, who's watching from Victoria. Hello John, thank you for watching today. Hello Patrick, and hello Pal, how are you? Right, I think that's all the hellos there. Right, the Trevi Fountain, which of course is a very well-known landmark in Rome, the Fontana di Trevi, or the Trevi Fountain. It has the steps on either side where tens of thousands of people sit every day when they're passing through Rome, and there is a tradition of throwing coins over your shoulder into this fountain for good luck. And of course, with the hundreds of thousands of tourists that go past this fountain every day, you can imagine that there is a significant number of coins thrown into the fountain. And it's estimated that there is actually about €3,000 worth of coins thrown into the fountain each day. And in 2016, the Town Council of Rome actually donated €1.4 million to Rome's poor in money that was just taken from the fountain. On TikTok this week, someone actually filmed the process of the town council emptying the fountain, and it turns out that a couple times a week they do actually empty the coins out of the fountain. They switch the pumps off so the water stops flowing, and then they have a special rubber rake with a long handle that they use to push all the coins into a pile. And then they have a specially manufactured pump that they use to suck the coins off the floor of the fountain. And what is really interesting about that is that the pump has an automatic coin sorter built into it. So all the coins end up in bags, properly sorted and ready for donation to charities. And apparently it takes them 1 or 2 hours, a couple of times a week, to empty the coins out of the fountain. €3,000 a day, which is about $5,000 worth of coins a day, are tossed into that fountain for good luck. I thought that was an interesting and obscure coin story for us to talk about. Now the last one for today was another one that popped up on my feed. Apparently there was a question on Millionaire Hot Seat this week about the total amount of silver coins that you're allowed to use for payment and it to be legally accepted. Viewers of these videos would know that about 6 months ago I covered that exact topic, and the Reserve Bank of Australia actually has an article up on their website defining the legal allowable limits for different coin sizes. You can pay up to 20 cents with 1 and 2 cent coins. With our copper nickel coins you can pay up to $5. With $1 and $2 you can pay up to 10 times face value. But of course you don't have to take cash. There is no legal requirement for people to accept cash. So what do we do here when people come and pay with coins? We had a gentleman pay with about $130 in coloured $2 coins this week. We quite happily take it and we pop them into our till and give them out as change, because it always gives people a thrill when they get a coloured coin in their change. So thank you to Millionaire Hot Seat for generating some news for me. Now I see that there's some discussion going on down here about, I believe that Patrick asked a question. Patrick says, if I get given a coin in change at the shop and it's straight out of the roll, is it still uncirculated or not? Patrick, you need to go and watch the video from a couple of weeks ago because I covered that exact topic. So if you just jump onto YouTube and look up our channel and watch the last couple of weeks' videos, I did actually answer that exact question a couple of weeks ago. Alex says, how do you pronounce your last name, Mark? So my name is, phonetically you would pronounce it Nemtsas, Nemtsas. but all of my relatives pronounce it Nemstis for some reason. The origins of it are a bit unknown. Probably it comes from Western Anatolia, which is in part of Turkey. It's probably of some sort of Slavic origin, and as best as we can determine, it probably just means from somewhere else. So at some point in history, when a government was taking a census, people were required to have a surname. Probably my family didn't have a surname, and they had come from somewhere else, so they were just called Mark from somewhere else, in the same way that you would be Mark Baker or Mark Taylor and things like that. So that's the origins of my name as best as I know it. Pal says, does the emptying of the fountain dry the coin at the same time? Don't know, pal. Don't know. Excuse me. Right. Now, news. Topic of the week. I did have another topic that I was going to talk about, but I pivoted from that. I thought what I'd do today is talk about, I guess, what responsibility. JJ says, did the person get the question correct on the hot seat? So the question was passed 4 times and no one got it right. So yeah, no one got that one right. I must admit that I probably would have got it wrong as well, because I thought it was $10, but it's actually $5. Now, Alex says he'll just keep calling me Mark. Look, Alex, I would too. I wouldn't bother trying to say or spell my last name either, and it does become a bit annoying. Now, anyway, what happens when you decide to stop collecting? You lose interest. You decide not to put any more money into it. Perhaps you are not physically or mentally capable of collecting anymore. What do you do with your collection? This is a topic that comes up here a lot in the shop, and usually it comes up after the decision or no decision has been made to about what to do with your collection. When an elderly collector gets put into care or passes away, and the children or executors of the wills or whatever are left with disposing of the collection. And in the vast majority of cases, what do collectors do when they stop collecting with their collection? Nothing. They do nothing with it. It just sits there and is left for someone else to dispose of. So let's just have a look at why you might stop. You might not be physically or mentally capable of collecting anymore. So you need to, I guess, then think about whether you're going to become interested in collecting again or become able to collect again. You need to think about how you feel about your collection. Do you have an emotional attachment to it? And there's no doubt that a lot of collectors have an emotional attachment to their collecting. And whether that's the simple pleasure of owning things, or whether it's the memories that the collection entails, the effort that you put into putting them together. You can certainly look at items in your collection and remember how you purchased them and the efforts that you went to find them. And from my own point of view, I have a smallish collection, and most of it I have no emotional attachment to, but there are a few things that I don't think I'll ever be able to get rid of because of the person who gave those to me, or the effort that I put into finding that particular item, or perhaps the story or history behind that item that I have since realised after purchasing it. So when I say I don't mean I'll ever get rid of them, I mean that I won't get rid of them until I absolutely have to. So what are your options when it comes time to when you can't collect anymore for whatever reasons they are? Well, your first option is to just do nothing. And what does that mean? It just means doing nothing. It means that your collection stays in the state that it is right now, in the storage that it is right now, with associated documentation and things like that you have right now. And when it falls onto someone else's shoulders to dispose of it, then they need to deal with that. And in my opinion, I don't feel like that is the best thing to do, because even though you may not be able to bear the thought of getting rid of your collection, at some point someone has to, and a lot of the time that's your kids. And you want them to be able to benefit from them as much as possible. So it is in your best interest to ensure that it's all stored correctly so that it doesn't degrade over time, and B, document some of the important things that are in there. So I would ensure at least that you do number 2, which is ensure that it's stored correctly. So getting everything out of PVC, putting it into archival storage, separating corroded coins away from normal coins, making sure that it's in a place where it's not going to get wet or damp and things like that. Because at least then, when it does come time for that collection to be disposed of, it is in the best possible condition. And then point 5 and point 6 there are things that you would need to decide yourself. Firstly, document the better items. Why do you do that? When a collection comes in here in the shop, we do go through it from top to tail and pay more for better items, but there are times when we're looking at thousands and thousands of items where we might miss something. There are other less scrupulous people who will deliberately miss things, and just taking the time to go through a coin collection and write a little note and put it with a coin and saying, you know, I paid this and this is an important coin and things like that, will help to ensure that whoever is disposing the collection is going to realise the best possible value for it. On the other hand, if you have stuff in your collection that you know is no good, such as space filler 1930 pennies, replica key date coins, fake bullion and things like that, then I feel like it is a good idea for you to actually put notes with those items saying that they're not real, because we don't want our relatives to get their hopes up when they're looking through our collection and jumping onto Google thinking that there is a huge fortune there, because they are going to be disappointed. We had a lovely lady come in a few weeks ago, and her father had passed, and she had a bag of 6 centenary florins, 1934-35 centenary florins, and she had planned how she was going to spend that money from those. She knew what they were worth, you know, $500 or $600 each. She had made plans on what she was going to do with that money, and they were all fake. Now, she was obviously disappointed in that, and I just feel like that disappointment could have been mediated by just simply putting a note with those coins saying that they were fake. It's assuming that the collector knew that they were fake, and certainly it is worth taking the time to do that. If you have stopped collecting and you're not interested in the collection any longer, then we always encourage people to pass it on to someone. You know, rather than disposing of it, find someone that you know, or a relative, or a son, or a daughter, or a niece, or a nephew who is engaged with the hobby, and pass it on to them. We're all about creating long-term collectors in this shop, and we always try to encourage people to keep these collections that they get. So, you know, if you can engage with a friend or a relative when it comes time to get rid of that collection, build enthusiasm with them in the hobby, then, you know, the best value for a lot of the time is to pass that collection on directly to them, and to work with them as they understand that collection and sort it out and organise it. And I feel like in a lot of cases that is the 100% the best way of or best thing to do with a collection, is to figure someone out to pass it on to while you're still around, and can pass on the information that you have about it. Number 4, sell it yourself. You know, if you understand that your family isn't going to be interested in the collection after you're gone, or after you've lost interest in it, or perhaps you know you're never going to get back into it, then just get rid of it yourself. You know, bring it into a dealer, pop it onto social media, sell it on eBay, put it in an auction, whatever it happens to be, and give your family the money. You might feel like that's the best use for the money, or go on a holiday and spend it yourself, or buy a new car or something like that. Don't leave it to sit there and degrade. If it's something you're not interested in, just taking up space, just sell it yourself and get rid of it and do something with the money. So the last point there, number 6, is to actually fully document the collection, and this is a lot of work. Catherine and I have fairly well documented collections, but you know, there just isn't enough time in the day to fully document every collection. But if you have got the time to do it, it is going to be a very useful thing for the person who is left with getting rid of the collection afterwards. Right, let's just have a look at some comments here. Mary says, quick question, I have a lot of drachma and coins and notes which I don't want. How do I go about selling them? Mary, if they're obsolete Greek currency, which they most likely are, judging by your name, then they have negligible value. They're not legal tender any longer, and most Greek notes and coins are very common, and if you were to take them into a coin dealer, you'd probably get paid by weight, and you know, 20 or 30 or 50 or cents or $1 a note or something like that. That's the only best thing you can do with it, I think. Nelson says, I agree with documenting the collection, but I could never write down the purchase price in case my wife saw it and had a heart attack. Yeah, so I have heard the odd, we did have a news story last year sometime about a collection that was sold in the UK after a gentleman had passed away, and he kept one book that had the prices that he paid for things, and then he had another book with the prices that he told his wife that he paid for things. But in the end of the day, she was fairly happy because it was still quite a valuable collection, and she had no idea that she was going to get that much money at auction for it. So Brandon says, sorry, it's just moved. Brandon said, it's a good point. Coins will be here long after we're gone. And yes, that's right, Brandon. And I say that a lot, is that, you know, for fundamentally mundane things, you know, a penny or something like that is a very small denomination, very low cost. They will outlive us by hundreds, if not thousands of years. So we are only temporary custodians of them. And if we learn anything about our collection when we've got it, then I think it's up to us to write some of that history down and pass that on, because that will last longer than what we will. Mary says she can't part with her coloured coins, pass them on to my kids, and that's perfectly fine, Mary. I think that's a great thing to do. Nelson asked, do I suggest any tools for documenting? Excel is what I use for most things. Catherine and I also have a website where we pop some things up, but Excel is the fastest and easiest thing to keep track of stuff in. And Alex says, I found 2 fakes in my grandpa's collection some years back, a copy of a Confederate note and the famous Reader's Digest gold coin. Yeah, so Confederate notes are interesting. They are sold as souvenirs in the US, and there's lots of them around. Picking the real ones from the fake ones isn't that hard. And the Reader's Digest gold coin that Alex is talking about is a token, I think, from the 1980s that was on the front of Reader's Digest magazines. We probably get 5 or 6 of them a week coming in here. Lots of people asking if it's a real coin, and they're not. Sorry, it was just lots of comments here. Ash says, collate on the Mister, and then you can enter purchase price and only give you a password on your deathbed. I guess if you're on your deathbed, then it's too late to get in trouble for what you've spent on your coins. So New Mister is a collection cataloguing website. I've never actually looked into using it. I find web-based catalogues to be just really slow and hard to use. But if you've got lots of time, then I think New Mister would be as good as anything else. And Mark says, around 50 years now and thinking of selling, should I put them in a special auction house that deals with coins or notes or eBay? Well, Mark, that's a good question. Now, the first thing to understand when you're selling your coins is that someone has to do the work in selling them, and someone gets paid for it. If you pop them up onto Facebook or Gumtree or Facebook Marketplace, you do all the work and you realise all of the sale value. If you stick it up onto eBay, you do most of the work and eBay takes a cut of that. If you sell it to a dealer like us, we do all of the work, and of course we need to make a profit. If you put it into an auction house, they do all of the work, they need to make a profit, and they take a cut from your sale and from the buyer as well. So there is no free lunch. Someone has to pay, whether that be in terms of financial value or time. Now, how you sell it is entirely up to you, but I think I've just listed off the different ways there. You just need to understand that If you want to realise all of the value, you need to do all of the work. If you want to get rid of it with the minimum amount of fuss, then selling it to a dealer is the quickest way, because you get paid straight away. Otherwise it's putting it into an auction house. But of course, dealers and auction houses need to make profits, and they will not pay retail value for things. So you just need to understand that. Right, I think that's it for today. Thank you everyone for watching. Interesting topic. Thank you for the great questions, everyone. Now, there is another RAM release on the 18th of August. It's the Edward the Emu book 20-cent pieces. So there's going to be a copper nickel coin on a card, a copper nickel coin in a book, and a gold plated coin in a book. We may have some available over the counter here in the shop. There will not be any on our website, and we're no longer taking expressions of interest for those. So if you are keen on that stuff, you should spread your tentacles out far and wide and try and get your name down on as many dealers list as possible. And hopefully you can get your hands on those on August the 18th. Right, that's it for this week. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for your comments and your kind words. As always, we'll be back same time next week. If you have any questions that you'd like us to address in these videos, please send us a message or give us a phone call or send us an email. Stay safe, happy collecting, and bye for now.